Hey, what's going on, guys? Today I'll be going over the longest common prefix problem, and in this problem you're given an array of strings and you're supposed to return the longest common prefix. So the longest common prefix in this case would be FL because all of these strings have the prefix FL. So the brute force solution to this problem is to check every single possible common prefix. So for instance, you would first check the prefix flower, then you would check flower without the R, and then flower without the ER. And this solution is very inefficient, so what we want to be doing instead is using an algorithm called vertical scan. So if you were to visualize the input array as a vertical array with every single array string element stacked on top of each other, we can examine the string elements column by column to find the longest prefix. So if we would start first at F, and then we would scan through all of the Fs, and then we see that they're all Fs, so then we add that to our common prefix. So we would add the string F, and then we move on to L, and then we see that every single one of these array elements has the letter L, so we would add that, and then we go to O, and then we find that we have an I here, so then that is not part of our longest common prefix. So we would just return the FL here. So we would have a nested for loop here, and the first loop with the I would loop through each individual element in the array, and the loop with the J loops through each individual character. So this if statement here where we have I is greater than or equal to length of string J, that is a check to see whether or not we've reached the end of a word. So in some cases, some words are going to be shorter than others, and you're going to get to the end of that shortest word, and in which case you've already found your common prefix, and we know that continuing on wouldn't give you like a better or a longer common prefix, so we just return our common prefix. So that's why we have this return common pre here. And then we also check the case to see if the current string element is not equal to the first string element. So now we're comparing this F right here to this first F, and we check to see if those two are equal, and if they are, we continue onwards, and if they're not, this if statement catches it, and then we just return the common prefix. And the common prefix right now is null because we haven't added anything yet to it, but we're not going to return anything because they are equal. And then the J would increment up one, and we would check this last F and the first F, see if they're equal, and it is, so then we append to our common prefix, right? So our common prefix would just become F now, and now we increment I, and we're comparing this L to our first L, that checks out, that's equal. So then we compare this L to our first L, that checks out, that's equal. So then we add it to our common prefix. Now we get to O, we check this second O and this first O, that's equal, that's good. Now we check this I to our first O here, that is not equal. So then we know we've found our common prefix, and we just return the common prefix, which is FL. So going over the runtime complexity of this, the runtime complexity is n times m, where n is the size of the array and m is the size of the string element, and the space complexity is O of 1. So this is an alternative solution that you can use, and this produces an n log n runtime. And what this does is sort the actual array and then compare the first element and the last element, right? So that makes sense because we know that once it's sorted, everything should be sorted alphabetically, and then there's no need to check any elements in between. So we just check the first element and the last element, and then see where the differences lie using the vertical scan or whatever you want to use, and then we just return the common prefix value. I'm not really going to go into too in-depth into that, but it is a clever solution. If this video helped you out, then be sure to leave a like and consider subscribing. Thanks for watching, and I'll see you guys in the next one.